Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nails and Beauty Talk, NFT, crypto, and Web3. I am your host, Asia the Bird. Today, I have a very special guest with us today. He's an NFT artist and illustrator. Please welcome Mark Constantine Inducil. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Asia. Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here. And also, thank you for doing this at this time, because I know it's a bit late there now. So thanks for adjusting your schedule for me.
Yeah, you're most welcome. So I want to go ahead and start this interview by asking, where are you originally from and how did you get started in the realm of art?
Sure. So I was born in the Philippines, and I moved to Melbourne in 2005. And by that time, I already had somewhat of a career in graphic design coming from the Philippines. The reason why I left because after like maybe about 3 years or something like that, I kind of burned out, you know. So I just kind of felt like I needed some time away from, you know, the stress and the busyness of things and how crazy things get, you know, with like deadlines and stuff like that. So I decided to kind of have some time off, and I decided to kind of study film during that time, and that's how I ended up in Melbourne. And then I kind of liked it here, and I stayed, you know, since then. And I've had a kind of a long career as far as like different hats that I've worn in the creative industry. You know, I've started out as a magazine artist, like a layout artist. And then I became like your kind of branding, you know, designer. And then I've become, you know, like everything almost. But as far as getting into art, like when I was younger, like looking back at my younger self now, I kind of felt like I've always wanted to be an artist, but I've never really felt like I could make it. Because for me, my mindset at that time was either you really need to be good at it in order to make some money off it. Because you know, like some people would kind of discourage you, you know, at a young age on being an artist, because it's, you know, they're kind of afraid that you might have a hard time in earning a living, which is kind of true, you know, kind of when you get older. But I was always kind of drawn to it, you know, like I've always kind of drawn to like even when I was young, you know, I kind of collected comic books, and I would kind of just kind of look at the pictures and not really pay attention to the, you know, to the writing. I was kind of looking at it more for the, you know, for the artistry and stuff like that. And so basically I got into art, like creating art full time, when I had a bit of a personal crisis. You know, like I was at the point in my life where I was kind of unhappy on where I was professionally. You know, like I just didn't feel good at the end of the day, no matter how hard I was kind of working at my stuff, you know. So I kind of decided to kind of, you know, again, take some time off and just kind of, you know, just kind of reflect on things. And that's when I started using art as therapy, you know, just kind of going through my issues and, you know, trying to communicate, trying to capture those emotions and put it on, you know, on screen or whatever. Yeah. So that's basically kind of how I ended up creating art full time. And it was kind of a good timing, because when I decided to kind of, you know, leave my job and kind of just do the art thing full time, it was a year before the pandemic. And so I was kind of posting, you know, every day on Instagram, just kind of no matter what kind of mood I was, I kind of decided like, forget about your mood. It doesn't matter, you know, just kind of create something every day. That was kind of my mindset on that first year. So when I was posting on Instagram every day, it was kind of, I was developing my style throughout. And then after that first year, the pandemic hit, and that's when the whole NFT crypto kind of wave came in. So for me, it was kind of a good timing for me when the crypto kind of phase came in for me, because that was the time where I was really kind of honing my, you know, my style.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. Now, who would you consider to be like your favorite artist?
When I first started in 3D art, like there were 3 people that I always kind of look at their work for inspiration. Their names are Joey Camacho. He's also known as Roy Rendered on Instagram. Of course, Beeple. Everyone knows Beeple. You know, with Beeple, it's just like, I think his kind of obsession with creating art every day. I think that was the biggest thing for me, to see someone, you know, kind of put that much effort into it. That was really inspiring for me. And the third one is Stuzer. from
Mhm.
Instagram. And even now you can see some of his kind of influence in my work. Like whenever you see that small kind of person in my artwork, that's from him. You know, I kind of got that kind of feel from his
Mhm.
artwork. But now, since I've started kind of taking it more seriously, like I've been looking at more kind of the older, you know, kind of classical artists and finding inspiration there. And I think for me, it's Bosch, Dali, of course, Van Gogh for the colors, you know, and
Right.
Caravaggio for the lighting. Even Caravaggio, like even when I was studying cinematography, he was the one I was studying as far as how he would, you know, paint light in his work. And
Right.
yeah, and also I've heard from some like more seasoned DPs at that time that if you want to be good at cinematography, you go and study painters, you know, and how they kind of create their light in their paintings. So until now, those three are still kind of I'm still kind of exploring the things that they make me think of whenever I look at their work.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I'm the same way. I love Salvador Dali's work, Van Gogh. You know, I like how you talked about Hieronymus Bosch because the
Yeah,
most classic artwork that I love from him was the Garden of Earthly Delights, where it's so much stuff going on.
exactly.
Where it's like
It's so good.
yeah, yeah. It's like this heaven and hell, you
Yeah,
know.
and also like with Bosch as well, that it's like an epic story in one frame. You know, you can
Right.
spend like hours just kind of going through everything and imagining what those people are going through. And it's a story, you know, it's a story that you create yourself. So it's I love Bosch.
Yeah, yeah. And especially you look at Michelangelo's work where he had all these big, big scenes, you know, biblical scenes, especially look
Mm,
at the art in the churches, the cathedrals. It's absolutely
exactly.
amazing. Like the amount of detail and proportions that they study so much in the Renaissance, you know, that's really, really cool.
And also to think that they did it during that time, you know, like
Mhm.
how hard it is to do something like that during that time, you know, there
Mhm.
wasn't no undo button there, you know, there's no erase, you know, like you have to be like on top of your game in order to just kind of attempt what they were trying to do during that time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Especially with Leonardo da Vinci, like he studied organs. Like this is the same guy that would write backwards. That's so amazing.
It's crazy. Like sometimes I would question myself, like how much do like great artists like put time that we don't see, you know, how
Right.
much practice, how much preparation do they make? And like the more I read about like what Da Vinci would do, I was like, that's just on another level. Like, and but you kind of set your standards for yourself on how much do you want to, you know, put in and how much do you want to be good at it by kind of
Right.
seeing how much other people put in their stuff.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I look at like artists like from the 80s and 90s, like you look at Keith Haring or Jean-Michel Basquiat, like they had their own distinct style, which I thought was really cool, especially Keith Haring. Like
Mhm.
the bold mark making and things like that, the bold colors, you could tell that's his style. Same thing with
Yeah,
Jean-Michel Basquiat. His mark making was very, very loose, and you could tell that's his art style. So I like where how art has progressed.
exactly. And also like for me, like I'm still at the very beginning of this journey, to be honest with you. Like I'm still looking forward to seeing and discovering more artists, you know, like when I was studying film, like it's kind of the same thing. You kind of start off with the obvious, you know, kind of Spielberg and Fincher, and then you kind of branch out to more, you know, kind of artsy, more kind of you know, art house films, and you start appreciating that. So I'm for me, I feel I'm still at the start. I'm still kind of studying kind of more the obvious choices, you know. But like I've also kind of discovered like I think she's British. She's do you know Maggie Hambling?
I don't.
Like she's
I'm
a
not familiar with
portrait.
that.
Like I was just kind of looking for different artists on YouTube, and I stumbled upon her work, and she's a portrait artist, and her work is phenomenal. And but what I love about her is just her attitude towards her work. Like she says, like every work is an experiment. You know,
Mhm.
every work is something that she's not really like comfortable with. It's something that's outside of her comfort zone. So she's always trying to push herself on how this could be, you know, kind of like not be obvious when people see it that it's from her, but at the same time it feels familiar. So that to me, that kind of mindset is very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And plus everybody's how they work is much different and how they produce is much different. And that's how you create big bodies of work where it can be impactful and it can affect, you know, somebody's life or how and just affect how they feel.
Exactly. Like, yeah, like, you know, Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Now I want to ask like about your art style. How could you describe your art style?
Well, I think like a lot of people have told me like it's, it's dreamy, it's surrealistic and stuff like that. Like it's hard for me to describe my art style because I feel like I don't want it to kind of be kind of pigeonholed in whatever I say, and I feel like I have to commit to that from now on. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's almost like it's funny because my kind of like relationship with my art like a year ago, even 2 years ago, is kind of different on how I kind of approach it now. I think a year or two ago I was more controlling of what should happen, what should I produce and stuff like that. But now I'm a bit more loose about it. I'm a bit more kind of, you know, just trying to kind of be more in the moment, kind of
Mhm.
create things more organically. So it's really kind of based a lot on my mood sometimes as well. So, but I would say like the basic, I think, characteristics of my work is, it's surreal, it's dark, and I also love contrast in moods. Like I love using like bright colors to tell kind of a sad story, because that's
Mhm.
just kind of how I kind of felt, kind of throughout my life. So I'm trying to capture that. So I
Mhm.
guess it's that it's quite personal, it's quite dark, it's quite surreal, and I think for me, my goal with every artwork is at least it should feel dreamy. It should feel like it came from your subconscious or something like that.
Mhm. Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Like it's very dreamy and surreal. It reminds me like how we talked about with Salvador Dali, how he had these surreal works of art. And I want to get into the color palettes. And I like how consistent they are because
Mm.
you use like not only like complementary colors, but you use analogous colors. And those are colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. So what was that whole decision with using a mixture of complementary and analogous colors?
To be honest with you, I just like it. Like like before I would study color theory. I would study the fundamentals, understand what color means and how it affects people when they see it, and how
Mhm.
for example, red will draw the people's eye towards red colors, and yellow is a bit more kind of bright and optimistic, stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I think I've been in the industry for almost 20 years, and I've been kind of been following kind of this kind of the rules of art, or guidelines in art, that I think when I decided to just kind of create and not think about anything else, I think it just came out naturally because of those years of experience, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I've gotten to the point where I stopped kind of trying to like dissect why I do things in my work, because I
Mhm.
feel like it's kind of subtracting whatever kind of magic kind of it has coming from me. So I try not to question it. I just try to embrace it and just trying to kind of go with the flow almost whenever I create something now.
Yeah, absolutely. And also a thing is with like your work as well, you use like camera angles and you're very
Mm.
good with like the shadows and the light. And I can tell it's that cinema vibe that you have in your work.
I'm so happy you said that, because that's pretty much like the biggest thing that me studying film has given me in this field. And what's very fun about it is because I'm using Cinema 4D, which has
Mhm.
its own camera system and stuff like that. And you can do all sorts of crazy things, as far as what lens, what focal length, what f-stop you use, that's impossible in the real world. So for
Mhm.
me, I like experimenting as well. Like, what would it look like with a two, kind of millimeter lens or something like that. So I
Mhm.
spend a lot of time just kind of seeing what would happen if I do this, if I do that. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really, really cool. But I'd like to also talk about you're into philosophy and
Mm.
psychology, but also applying emotion and also your culture into your work. So how do all these elements you include like play a part in just like the whole process in creating a work of art?
Yeah. So with philosophy and psychology, like I would just like to let you know that I'm not an academic kind of person at all. Like reading a book for me is a job. I have to force myself to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
it, like if I need to learn something, then I just have to do it. You know, it's not like some people enjoy reading like me, you know, enjoy playing video games or something like that. So I'm not, you know, I can't really quote any philosophers for you today, but what I do is, well, my kind of interest in philosophy and psychology and how that affected me as an artist started when, as I mentioned before, I had a personal crisis. So it was my curiosity on trying to get to know myself more, you know, trying to understand myself more. And I kind of got drawn into those two fields because whatever they were kind of, you know, kind of saying there made sense to me. And I could see, you know, how I could adjust this attitude, how I could adjust this kind of point of view with those kind of, you know, and also like every morning when I wake up before I work, I listen to this YouTube channel called Academy of Ideas. And the way I kind of can explain what that channel does for me is like, imagine if you have a really smart friend, you know, who's read all the books, and you just meet up with him once a week and he tells you everything in terms that you can understand. So that's how I kind of, you know, look into it. And it just made me understand myself better, you know, and like forgive yourself more, just be more kinder to yourself. And from that on, you know, I started, you know, kind of creating the stories in my art, because one of the things that I had trouble before was, what do I say? Like, what do I actually, you know, kind of paint about? Like, I had no idea. Like, I could create like a cool design that looks good, you know, it's all eye candy, but it doesn't have really a personal meaning to me. So I struggled with that for a long time. Like, what do I actually paint? You know, like if I'm going to express myself, like which one is it? And then what came naturally was just kind of going through those emotions that I've gone through and trying to, you know, kind of capture that, you know, in a digital art, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how could you describe the art scene in Australia? If you had to describe it.
The art scene in Australia is very like energetic, you know, it's very dynamic. Like I've met a lot of people, not a lot of people, I met some people. but the thing is with me is I'm actually a bit of a recluse. I don't really, you know, kind of go out that much, even, you know, even before the pandemic, you know. So I'm the kind of guy who always kind of kept to himself, you know, like even when I was younger, you know, that's just pretty much how I learned to kind of exist, really, is to kind of, you know, kind of huddle up and just kind of get lost in my own world. So, you know, I can't really describe, I don't think I'm in a position to describe too much about the art scene in Australia.
Okay, that's understandable. Now, in terms of cinema, what are like your favorite like films to look at that inspire you to create your work?
Wow, that's really a good question. You made me like go through a rabbit hole just then. It's like all these films start popping up in my head. Man, like I think for me, the classics, the ones I keep going back to look at, you know, like Blade Runner, like the cinematography of that from like 1979 or 1980 or something like that, it still holds up until today. You know, you can see a lot of techniques used there that you can still apply today. You know, it still feels like it's you know, it's something that could be made today. I really like I forget his name, but the guy who did Enter the Void, Gaspar Noé or something like that. He has a very kind of like just trippy lights. Like his cinematography is a bit rough and it's all handheld and stuff like that. But the way he lights things, it's very surreal. It's very kind of dreamy. So those are the kind of things I love looking at. And of course, like mostly like Roger Deakins. Any film that was shot by Roger Deakins is something that I enjoy watching and kind of influence in how I kind of use lighting, you know, and use colors and stuff like that. But for me, like any kind of genre is good, you know, like you want to just like kind of be diverse in the influences that you want to kind of not steal, but, you know, kind of influence in your work. Like the more films you see, the more artwork, the more artists that you see, the more diverse they are, the better it is that's going to serve you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I definitely want to get into your collaboration with Adobe Ariel. So how did that opportunity happen?
That all happened, but just me posting dailies on Instagram. I think someone who has connections with Adobe messaged me on Instagram saying that, kind of you're interested in working with me. And of course, like as an artist, Adobe, like everyone knows Adobe. So I was a bit intimidated at first.
Mm,
But when the whole thing started, like they were like just the nicest people that you could work with. They're very supportive. It was nothing like, because when I get anxious, when I get nervous, I always kind of think about what's gonna happen. That's the worst gonna happen. But when I talked to them, it was just, a very nice experience for me.
oh, that's really, really cool. Now, what would you consider to be like your favorite programs or mediums to use when doing artwork?
I use Cinema 4D as my main kind of 3D software. I also use Octane Render. And I also use Adobe After Effects to create kind of post effects to it. For me, like the tools that I use aren't really, I wouldn't say they're my favorites, but they're the ones I just kind of, got used to from the beginning. So it's really hard for me to learn something new, like like I know there's other softwares like Blender and Maya and 3D Max and stuff like that, but for me, like Cinema 4D does everything that I need it to do. So it's just me, I just kind of stuck with it.
Mm. Yeah, I'm into like Adobe, like Photoshop, Illustrator. I have like this program called Affinity Designer, and it's like $50. You pay it one time, and it's a whole vector program, just like with Illustrator, but it's like a cheaper alternative. So those are like my favorite programs. Do you work with any like traditional mediums, like gouache, watercolor, or anything of that nature?
I think no, not really. Like the last time I used gouache when I was like studying graphic design, like I never, like I wanted to be a traditional artist, but I never, like I found out very early that I never had, the patience and the attention span for it, because and also like the idea of like one mistake can ruin everything.
Right.
Like that to me is like scary. So I
Mm.
wish I was good at, kind of traditional mediums.
Yeah. Now I want to get into like the business aspect. So how important is for someone to market and sell their artwork?
Oh, it's very important. Like no one will, like no matter how good your artwork is, first of all, there's a lot of artists out there. Like it's a very competitive industry, like for every good one that you see, there's always someone who's better, like of course it's all subjective, but so marketing yourself is, and just getting, kind of getting to your work out there to as many people as you can will help you kind of find your specific market, because there's always a niche for whatever it is that you're doing, and it's just a matter of finding that group that loves your work, and you have to kind of keep in mind like everyone wants everyone to love their stuff, right? But that's not really a goal that's realistic. So you have to just
Right.
find, that specific niche market that you can, and you just do that by spreading as much as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. But I also want to get into as well, like if someone wants to get into art school to find their art style or to get into art, what is like some piece of advice would you give for someone who wants to get into art school to pursue art?
I think for me, you just have to have an attitude of like you want to experiment with your, with your work. Like art school is great because it teaches you kind of the fundamentals of things, and also like the people that you're going to meet in art school would be, like just the networking aspect, and also friends who kind of share the same passion, that will actually motivate each other, in order to kind of push yourself further. But I think art school sometimes does kind of give you like a set of guidelines that you should do, and for
Mhm.
me, like artwork is really about bending those, those guidelines. It's almost like in order for you to find your own style, you have it's really hard because you have to create something that no one has really seen before, but it feels familiar,
Yeah.
and you can't really do that by, following the fundamentals too much. You
Right.
have to kind of somewhere somehow bend the rules and create something new, create something surprising that people haven't seen, and that takes a long time. And if you can go to art school, go to art school. If you can't go to art school, that doesn't mean you can't be an artist as well. Like
Right.
there's a lot of self-taught artists especially now with YouTube, and also like even in Twitter, like the NFT community in Twitter is very supportive, you know, like they want everyone to kind of be successful. So, you know, like it's really how you make the most out of things, you know, like doesn't matter. I think for me personally, if you have an art school degree or if you just kind of self-taught, like at the end of the day, it's all about, you know, the work. That's what's great about this field. It's like, if you want to be a doctor, you have to be a doctor. You can't just self-study that, you know.
Right.
But as an artist, you know, you can develop that stuff on your own. So it doesn't, you know, but saying that if you can go to art school, I think the experience of just having, you know, people around who is very passionate about the same thing, like I think it's very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely agree with that. Be around like-minded people, and you have to bend the rules. That's what makes you stand out. The thing with art school, like I went to SCAD, which is Savannah College of Art and Design here in the States, United States. And the thing with art school, like, of course, they teach you a lot of fundamentals, the different techniques of how to illustrate and things like that. But the thing is, I think what could be improved with art school is how to do your own business, how to sell your work, how to start your own business. I think that's something that a lot of artists, I think we know the art aspect, but it's not well versed in the business aspect, especially financially. I think that's very important.
That's very true. Like even with like things like pricing, you know, like it's hard for an artist to put value in his own work. You know, like it's very tricky. Well, for me, I'm kind of lucky because my wife is very good at that. She's very good. Like I'm more of the abstract, you know, kind of minded person. She's the more kind of analytical, kind of math kind of person. So like when we got into this whole crypto thing, like she just kind of, you know, found it to be naturally interesting for her. And I was like, I'm so happy that she did. Because that, you know, like it is hard, you know, like when I went to film school, like nobody told me how hard it was to find a job as a filmmaker after film school, or how to even start off. Like where do you even start off, you know, as a professional, you know? So I totally agree with what you said about the lack of business advice after school. You know, you may be the best, you know, illustrator out there, but if you can't sell yourself, then, you know, it's going to be a rough, you know, few years.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. And that's the same thing also with even with beauty school. Like they don't teach you much of a depth in terms of business. Like I'm a licensed cosmetologist, but I do nails. So the thing is that they don't really teach you and understand how to have your own business. Like how you said, pricing, how to charge what you're worth and understand your value. And that's the thing. So, you know, just without that alone, like how do you survive, especially as an artist in a general sense?
Exactly. And it's a good thing now that you can just, you know, I mean, now you just search that stuff, you know, that helps you. But I do understand, like if you're going to have an education, you know, like a formal education, like it has to be there. Like I can't see why they wouldn't, you know, add that as like business management, you know, as one class, you know. I think a lot of people's, you know, careers might have done a lot differently if they had, you know, kind of not a clear roadmap, but at least some solid advice on, you know, kind of how to price your stuff, how to say no to clients, you know, what happens when a client gets, you know, too pushy and starts asking for all that kind of stuff. Like if you go to Reddit, you know, this the art business subreddit, there's heaps of people asking the same kind of questions, like how much should I charge, stuff like that. So yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because it makes you have to learn all this stuff on your own, which is tough. But it's like, you know, even before you get into art school or beauty school, wherever, you're gonna have to learn a lot of this on your own and find and seek people out as, you know, mentors to help you learn the ropes in terms of business.
Exactly. No, it's invaluable. It's like it's the other side of the same coin. You know, art and business, they go hand in hand. You know, like yes, no doubt about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to get into NFTs because, of course, I'm learning about NFTs and crypto and Web3. So what got you started in the realm of just creating like your own NFTs and selling your own NFTs?
Well, the whole thing with NFT started when, again, when I was posting daily on Instagram, and a stranger messaged me. He said that I should, you know, consider selling my stuff on as NFTs, as crypto art.
Right.
And I was very skeptical at first because at that time I was setting up my website. I was setting up my print shop. I was really determined to not go back to my old job and just kind of live off as an artist, selling prints, selling shirts and stuff like that. So I kept just kind of ignoring him because it just sounded skeptical, at the beginning. Like I went to, like, he told me to go to Rarible. I went to Rarible and kind of saw it, but I
Right.
never got it at the beginning. Like, what is this? Like, I don't understand these numbers. And like I said, I'm not good with analyzing things. So I just
Right.
kept ignoring him. But he kept persisted for a few weeks. And then finally I said, all right, let me have a look at this. And, I looked at it and my wife and I did our research, kind of looked into it. And then we found out there's this whole market that's based on the blockchain, and artists actually earn from that. So after that, it was just one step to another. First step was apply to Rarible, and then next step was applied to Maker's Place, and then applied to Super Rare. And it was just one after the other. And that stranger, I still keep in contact with me. His name is Max. So I kept telling my wife, like, he changed my life, really. He changed my whole, because ever since I got into NFTs, like, I've been living like this, almost like this dream existence for me. I'm not saying I'm earning millions and millions of dollars. It's not really the case at all. But to wake up every day and being able to live off your art, to me, that's like the biggest gift anyone could have, given me, So I'm really, kind of grateful that he persisted during all that time. But I started off in Rarible. I was just selling like little bits and pieces of art there, and then I just kind of gradually tried to move up, to like certain different markets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really, really cool. So like I said, I'm learning about NFTs and different markets, and it's getting so big and it's absolutely amazing. So I definitely want to get into in terms of how you sell like your NFTs. Do you sell with Ethereum, or do you
Yep.
sell with like Solana?
So we've always been with Ethereum ever since the beginning. And like I said before, like, I'm not like, I'd rather kind of yield those kind of decisions to like my wife, who's really kind of all over the scene of crypto though. So whenever there's a decision to be made regarding the NFT crypto investments, we always kind of discuss it. But I always kind of, like, I know she knows much more than I do in this space. So I always kind of yield to her advice as far as which platform do we go to, which one is good, and we discuss it, and then we end up eventually kind of settling on whatever she thinks is best, for our little operation here.
Yeah, that's understandable, because there's so many like crypto wallet platforms. You got MetaMask, you have like Super Rare, you have a lot of these sources where you can sell NFTs. It's crazy.
Yes, there's definitely a lot. Like, I think in a month, like, we get like 5 or 6 marketplaces, kind of messaging me saying that they've got a new marketplace and stuff like that. You just need to be very selective of it. Like, some of the advice that I've been given as well from collectors say that you don't saturate like your work everywhere. You want it to be a bit scarce. You don't want it to be available in all the marketplaces. You just kind of want to build your following. Like, for me, like, I can't really speak for everyone, obviously. I just kind of can speak from my own experiences. Like, you want to pretty much build up your following on Instagram or in Twitter, especially on Twitter, because Twitter is really where the action happens, much more than Instagram. Twitter is where you kind of get in touch with your collectors. This is where you make announcements and stuff like that. So for me, like, build those following first, build your social media following. Because those followers do kind of, it's not everything, but it does influence how a collector might value your work. Like, that's just unfortunate, because it's just a number. Really, it doesn't really reflect on how good the artist is, but it does, it does kind of matter. So so after that, you just kind of wanted to don't kind of drop like once a week or something like that. You want to kind of build scarcity, like I said before. And for us, it was kind of a long learning experience, because we actually did what I told you not to do, which is mint a lot of work early on, and
Mhm.
now we're trying to kind of slow down on our drops so that kind of only put your best work in there. Only put the stuff that you feel you've leveled up. Because you can tell sometimes when you're working, you kind of do the same kind of thing, then one work suddenly stands out a bit more better than the others because you've kind of reached another. So those are the things that you want to mint. Like collectors appreciate that you don't kind of oversell stuff. You care about what you put up there.
Mhm. Yeah, be selective of what you put up there, not just like sell anything, of course.
Yeah.
Put your best work out there. And that's the thing, like I'm still learning the ropes about the difference between the different cryptocurrencies, especially how to mint an NFT, and especially, they talk about like hardware wallets, different crypto wallets, and it's so much to go into in terms of this whole realm of Web3 and NFTs. It's absolutely a ton of information, but I'm learning as I go myself, and I'm on Clubhouse. And I go into these meetings where they talk about a lot about the business aspect of NFTs, especially also get into the metaverse. So I want to get into the metaverse really quickly. So have you ever thought about creating your own environment within the metaverse, or like a 3D type of style environment, as an NFT?
Definitely. I mean, that's like whenever I imagine the things that you could possibly do in the future in that space, like your mind just goes everywhere. Like the potential for that is huge. Like, yes. So that to that question, yes, I would definitely love to kind of one day step in there and just kind of see what you can do. Because like for me, like I love that kind of thing. Like whenever there's a new software, I try not to learn it traditionally. I just kind of jump straight in and play around. So definitely like the metaverse is I believe if all works out, I believe it's gonna change a lot of like how we look at art, how we experience art, how we
Mhm.
even communicate with one another. It's just like it's such a huge thing that you're not really sure what it's gonna be, but it's gonna be it's gonna be exciting. It's gonna change like how we experience some things.
Yeah, that's the thing. And the thing is, you look at like these virtual games like IMVU or Second Life. There was another virtual game that I used to play when I was younger. It's called Frenzy. It used to be online, but they don't have the game anymore. But these are all like, games online where you have your own virtual world. You can make your own clothes. You can make your own stuff, like especially like The Sims. Like, The Sims is still the
Mm-hmm.
most popular thing. And, they're getting into like the metaverse where it's like, the metaverse is now like the thing where you could sell real estate, where you can get married in the metaverse. And so that's what it's venturing now, is getting more virtual and more big over time. And I can see it being more popular.
Exactly. I mean, the potential is just huge. And, I also understand there's some people who's a bit against it, like whenever they hear NFTs and, metaverse, they all go like, I could just, take a JPEG of that and, I have your, $1 million ape photo. But there's just something there that they're not understanding, like you need to be a bit more open-minded when it comes to new technology that could potentially change, a lot of things. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be cautious. We should definitely be cautious about the whole thing, but we can't just dismiss a new technology just because it could be scary. Those like all the things that they're afraid of as far as crypto, like money laundering and all that kind of stuff, is already happening. It's not like it became that way because of crypto. Those are issues long, plaguing our society even before crypto. So, like I'd rather focus on the kind of positive potential first, and
Mhm.
then kind of deal with whatever problems that might arise after, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree. Because I thought like when I first learned about NFTs, like, oh man, am I too late to learn this? Because you would think it's like, real popular, but it's still pretty new. The whole NFT Web3 crypto space is still pretty new.
It's very new. Like I don't think like it's not even like massively known yet. Like
Right.
I don't- like 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 everyone from back home that I talk to about crypto, they're all scared. They're all going like, "You're gonna lose all your money to crypto." I'm like, "Oh, my money came from crypto."
Oh, right.
You know what I'm saying? So like, there's an instant hesitation if you're trying to say something new, but like, let's think about how we can make it better before we try and tear it down, I guess.
Yeah. I can definitely with that as well, because I just did an interview with NFT WTF journalist and DeFi ambassador. His name is Michael Ray. He also goes by journalist on Clubhouse. And he even told me in the interview, I interviewed him, he lives off of crypto. And he was homeless at one point, but he has an apartment and he got that he lives off of crypto. So it's really, really cool to see, like, just making money, off of like NFTs, or, selling your work in the virtual space, and you could provide for yourself in crypto. That's absolutely amazing.
Exactly. Like, I actually watched that interview last night with Micah. And I was going to say, before we start the interview, like, for anyone's going to listen to this to get advice about NFTs and web, go watch Micah's video, because he covers a lot more detail into it. I heard about his story about how he was homeless first, and because of crypto, he changed his life. And that's the thing, like, some people don't realize, like, this is giving a lot of people hope,
right,
to be financially free, to do what they want in life. Like, I've done the whole 9 to 5 thing, and I don't want to go back there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, I don't know, like, when I was working full time, you work. I don't want to get into it because I don't want to bum anyone who's doing a 9 to 5 here. But but there is hope, guys. Like, even like there's stories in the Philippines. It was, it's a poor country, a lot of poor people there, and some families are actually earning, kind of like money because their kids are playing that NFT game, those kind of cute little monsters. I forgot their name, but I forgot the name of the game. But the point of the story is that they're earning crypto by playing that game, and therefore helping their poor families provide more for them. So that's, you can't say that's a bad thing. It's helping people in need. So there's always two sides to every story, and usually the truth. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. That's the thing with that too. And especially kids, a lot of kids are getting involved with NFTs. And there's this one kid who's 13, and she does like these series of long neckies. She has them as NFTs, and she became a multi-millionaire. So kids are getting involved. There's another kid who's 11 years old. His name is William Lupi, and he's from Thailand, and he has like these this NFT collection with dogs. And it's like he's getting his work out there and knowing a lot about the NFT virtual space. And it's just absolutely amazing how a lot of people, there's a good chunk of people that are getting into this stuff and saying, yo, this could be the next big thing.
Exactly. And, like, every day I check, the value of ETH and Bitcoin, which is kind of unhealthy sometimes, but you are kind of rooting for it to kind of win, because you just know that a lot of people who are, kind of suffering or kind of in need of kind of more kind of financial aid might get it because of this, so, and that's something to look forward to. That's why I'm kind of rooting for it to kind of, to get more kind of massively adopted,
Yeah. And that's the thing also. And you can learn at any age. It's not just, children and millennials like myself that are learning, but it's anybody at any age, like in their 40s, 50s, 60s, getting exposure to this space.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I don't know how old you think I am, but I'm in my early 40s. So I kind of started, I'm middle-aged. So I'm halfway, I'm halfway there. Hence the whole, kind of personal crisis in my kind of mid-30s. So yeah, definitely. Like, age doesn't really matter if you want to learn something. That shouldn't discourage you. Like there's a bit by Patrice O'Neill. Like, he's one of my favorite comedians. He was going like, like, if you want to learn something in your 40, it's too late for you. Like, I want to go back to school. Yeah, 40 too old. And although that's funny, right? Like, to me, I laughed my ass off when I heard that. But at the same time, it's really up to you. Like, no one can tell you what to do. No one can limit you in what you can do. It's really about your attitude towards what it is you want to do. So I learned that kind of late in life as well. But there's still time, like the more you hesitate, the less time you have. So there's no excuse for just prolonging it. You just have to start.
Yeah, exactly. Now, like within the whole art scene, I just love how it's just progressing because, it's not only with the NFTs and the Web3 and metaverse space, but it's also in general, just like how this is such a big community where it is not just like the traditional and like how we talked about how art has progressed so much, like from like the Leonardo da Vinci to Keith Haring into a lot of modern day contemporary artists now. You have James Jean, who's doing really cool, great bodies of work. And it is absolutely cool. Like with any medium that you use, that's a work of art. There's a guy, I forgot his name, but he's on Instagram and he does like these mini sculptures, with like the lead pencil, and he'll just sculpt with his lead. Like, it's just so amazing.
Yeah, that's one of the gifts of social media, like you can access like all these different, people and if you're an artist, like you can access all these different kinds of art, and yeah, it's very inspiring and it's very intimidating, it's very kind of, sometimes I need some break from looking at other people's work because I get a bit jealous, like, oh, he's so good, like when will I be that good? It's just, there's so many like good artists out there. And also, like, I was gonna say something, just forgot about it. But no, all right, it just kind of flew away to where we went. I might remember it later, but I can't remember it now.
Yeah. Like, so with the whole experience with, your experience with art, like how would you define success?
Success is kind of like, it means different to different people, right? Like for me, when I was younger, success meant like earning the respect of other people, But now I think I've kind of changed my view on success. It's more like if you can get through your day and kind of just kind of finish your goals in that day, that to me is success, if you can overcome your limitations, like if I'm not in the mood to create, if I'm feeling a bit lazy, but I push myself to do it anyways, that to me is, success on my part. But I think like success is more of a byproduct, right? Like it's a product of doing something that you love really well, and then success happens, I guess. Same thing with being happy. Like you can't really chase happiness. It kind of has to kind of grow out of you, I guess. By doing the things that you love. So I guess success to me is just being able to do the things that you love doing, every day, and having that freedom to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I can agree with that. And also too, like the whole thing with social media and like how we said about how art is getting so big, and you look at other people's work and, and you have to be careful with comparing yourself to other people, because that's the thief of joy, especially in what you love to do within your artwork, because of course they're going to have their style, but your style is what makes you unique. And I think that's something that, a lot of people have to understand, especially within my generation. And I'm 25. So that's the thing. So you want to stick to what you do and not focus on other people, focus on your path.
Exactly. And you mentioned that you might be too old to learn NFT and you're 25. That's I'm 42. I learned that like when I was 40. You know what I'm saying? So nothing is, it's gonna be all good. But yeah, definitely. Like it's always like for me also, like everything kind of changed as well when kind of I adjusted my attitude towards other people's work. Like I think when I stopped really caring about getting other people's respect or kind of overthinking of what people might like with my work, when I kind of decided to just kind of not listen to that and not really care about whatever people might think about what I might produce, I think that's when my kind of original voice started being developed, and I kind of remember what I was going to say about, kind of discovering other people's art before. It's like whenever I see other people's interpretations of how to express sadness or, happiness and stuff like that, you kind of realize that art is almost like its own kind of language, you know, it's kind of its own kind of dialect almost, where
Right.
everyone is almost saying kind of the same thing, like happiness, sadness, but they're inventing new ways or kind of discovering new ways to express those kind of things. So yeah, definitely.
Mhm. And also too, like, you know, the whole thing is, you know, I'm big with mental health, and I think mental health and self-care is very important, especially with what you do, because, you know, in social media can be very overwhelming. And sometimes you have to take yourself off of social media, like give yourself a big break from it, because, you know, the more you compare yourself to others, it just leads you into just not feeling very good about what you do. So you want to maintain loving what you do, you know, sometimes take a break off of social media because it could just be overwhelming.
Definitely, I agree. And especially once you get into crypto and NFTs, you know, like it's really easy to kind of get lost in, you know, like some guy sold this art for this much and, you know, mine isn't even selling that. There's like, there there will be time where you feel like nothing is going on, you know, like it's really tough to kind of maintain distance, you know, when you get into selling NFTs and stuff like that. So you have to be careful, you know, you have to, like what you said, you know, you need to have breaks, you need to disassociate your value of your art from what is being, you know, kind of sold in the market, because those are two different things. Like a collector buying your work for this amount of money doesn't necessarily reflect how good your artwork is. You know, like for you personally, you have to keep what makes you create art intact. You know, don't be a seller. You know, like think of yourself as a like a 5-star restaurant. You know, you're not a McDonald's. You don't make cheeseburgers, you know, for like 20 people. You know, you want to make, you know, kind of fine dining meal for those people. So patience is really a key element
Mhm.
there. And also, like, if nothing's happening, you know, um, just kind of keep concentrating and getting better, you know, because if you concentrate on getting better, then, you know, like you put your two artworks there up for sale, you know, nothing might be happening. You want to get better. And then the next one you make should be better than the last one. So
Mm.
when you replace that old art with a new one, it's even better, you know? So you want to keep just getting, you know, pushing yourself and getting to that level when people can't help it but acknowledge your work.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Now, what impact do you want to leave within your work, and what is something that people should take away from your work?
Um, for me, as far as impact, like if someone looked at my artwork, I kind of want them to kind of remember something. You know, they like a dream they had, or, you know, like a person that they knew that they haven't talked about for a while, or, you know, like that kind of moment of maybe loneliness when they're by themselves and stuff like that. You know, mostly personal, you know, kind of things. And most of my art really, like whenever I try to think about what to kind of create, you know, in the morning, like I always kind of come down to like reflecting on my mortality. You know, like death is really something that, you know, I kind of think about a lot. You know,
Mm.
like my dad passed away when he was 71. You know, and that was the time I had this personal crisis. You know, and I'm 42 now, so
Mm.
always felt like if he was 42, like what would he have done? You know, if he knew that he was going to pass away at 71. Those kind of things, like the time that we have, and, you know, kind of, you know, just that kind of existence that we have, you know, as human beings, of knowing that one day, you know, everything's gonna, you know, pass away. I think those are the things that really kind of keep coming up in my work, you know. So there's a bit of like melancholia and a bit of kind of bittersweetness, I guess. That's why I have this colorful kind of, you know, palette, and then at the same time the lighting is a bit, you know, kind of noirish, you know, it's a bit kind of dark. Um, but now I'm actually it's funny because now I'm actually trying to kind of brighten up my color palette. Like I'm kind of experimenting. I'm not sure if you've seen my recent works where it's outside. Like most of my older work all have like a dark black background with colorful, you know, kind of palette. Like the ones I'm trying to do this year is mostly kind of more outside. So it's a bit more, I think before, when it comes to kind of death, immortality, I was a bit sad about the whole thing because, obviously, we all kind of go through that emotion. But now I'm kind of getting better with how to handle it. So I feel like it's reflecting off what I wanted to kind of create. Like it's almost saying that I can have a good day and while still thinking about that. Whilst before I would kind of be all emo and depressed and stuff like that. But now I'm a bit more, kind of adjusting to it, I guess.
Mm, mm. Now, last but not least, where can people find you on social media and how can people support your work?
So you can look me up at Twitter and on Instagram at Mark Inducil, MarkInducil. And they can support me by just say hi, send me a message, like my work, comment, stuff like that. I really appreciate, every like, every comment, every message that I receive. I try to reply back to everyone who says it's, good work and stuff like that. I always thank you because like that to me is kind of special, like just knowing that people are connecting with your work with something that you've done. That's something that I never really want to take for granted. So, just say hi, just like and comment.
Well, thank you so much, Mark, for jumping onto the show. Your work is absolutely incredible. I love the colors. I think I've seen your most recent work. I think it was on your website, I believe. But your work is absolutely phenomenal. I love the colors. I love the 3D elements you put in your work, like the figures you put in your work. It's such a dreamy vibe. It's very, very surreal. And like I said, it reminds me of Salvador Dali. It's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And this was fun. I was a bit nervous doing this because I'm a bit of like I said, a bit of a recluse. I'm not used to this kind of stuff. But I wanted to do it because I wanted to chat with you. I saw your interviews; they're very good. So I'll be watching your videos from now on. And yeah, thanks for having me again.
You are most welcome. Well, take care. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to click the bell for notifications. Also, follow me on my social media platforms and visit my website, asiatedbird.com, and be on the lookout for more interviews involving Web3, NFTs, crypto, and the metaverse.